Welcome to the Smoke and Rope podcast. Today's episode 63. I'm your host, Ryan Basor, and today we have on the show Michael Pedrosi, the managing partner of Capital Transport. Michael, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate the honor to be on the 63rd episode. And eager to hear what questions you guys have for me in the exciting transport sector of cannabis in Michigan.
You got it. This is our first conversation on transport, and I do have some intriguing questions I've been wondering about, so I'm looking forward to it. But with that, we got Tom Beller up at Relief. Tom, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. Beautiful afternoon. Haven't spoke with Michael in a while, so it's nice to catch up.
Yep.
Kevin, over in Lansing.
Yeah, no, exactly what Tom said. I've always gotten along really well with Michael, and we always have good conversations when he stops by the shop. So haven't talked in a while, so I'm really looking forward to having him on the show and looking forward to it. So yeah, let's get after it.
You got it. You got it. So I first heard about Michael and Capital Transport from Kevin, and then from Tom as well. And Kevin's always said real good things about Michael and about the business. And then we had a Lansing Chamber of Commerce, economic luncheon. Normally it would have been in person, but we did it virtually, and it was really well attended. And Michael, whose business is located in Lansing, was on it as well. So got to hear you talk and knew you knew what you're professional at that point. So
It's an
with
attempt.
that,
It's an attempt.
yeah, no, that was great. That was a great panel, and but with that, I've got some questions, but I wanted to find out about like your background. Always interesting to hear, where you grew up, from Michigan or not, and what led you to being a marijuana transporter.
Yeah, no problem. Again, thanks for having me. Kevin, thanks for facilitating. Appreciate the opportunity to be on with you guys. Grew up in Michigan, in, dare I say, one of the, I don't know if it's an official or unofficial epicenter of cannabis in Michigan, in Sterling Heights. A lot of folks in the industry that I bump into I haven't seen in quite some time, and that's always fun. So grew up in Sterling Heights. I'm 40 years old, so date me back. I'm a child of the late 80s and 90s, so it's one of my favorite phrases is let's do it like we used to do it in the 90s. Went to Central Michigan University, spent some time there, spent an extra year there, and I have an accounting degree. I'll give you the run of my unimpressive resume. I'm a CPA. I'm also a licensed builder, licensed real estate broker, and the recipient of one of the first licenses in Michigan for the commercial cannabis industry. How I got into this, I guess I could just segue right into that. Like I said, I grew up in an area where there's a lot of people that participate in the industry. Always was close with a bunch of them. And I just happened to be, I was actually at a funeral for one of my friend's parents, sitting at the luncheon, some folks at the table, some of which I know you guys know them. It's me and an attorney and a doctor, and everybody else is in the caregiver cannabis industry. And they're talking about this upcoming law change and all that. And it just sparked an interest for me. I respect the people that were saying that it's going to be an opportunity. And once I looked into it and saw that there might be this little niche that even though I stepped out of that for a long period of my life, that it is a little niche that I could get back into it. It's the least glamorous, it's the least glitzy, but it's unfortunately for me, unfortunately for the rest of the industry, it's a necessity that's put into the statute. That's where the idea came from. Met with a couple teams up in Lansing shortly thereafter. Just got a lay of the land of the Lansing existing cannabis market. So this would have been probably in like 2017, late 17, and then headed back up there in 18. And I think there were 85 dispensaries. Kevin, you probably know better. When I was driving around with this person, and now we're down to the high 20s or whatever. and just took it from there. Talked to a friend of mine that I knew for 20 years. I was self-employed in the construction business. He was self-employed in another industry. We started talking and decided to make it our goal to get one of those licenses. So, then we went through the gyration that everybody has gone through, at least in some way, shape, or form. We were in the beginning, so we were dealing with the board, dealing with 9,000 documents for just 2 people, because it's just my partner and I. And our initial goal was to be the first licensed, approved cannabis company in Michigan. They wouldn't let us go on the first board meeting by ourselves, so they pushed us in with a couple other folks, but we attained that. So we were the first approved transport company in Michigan, and one of the first, I think there were 4 of us that were approved initially at the July 2018 meeting. So we passed the bar with everybody's favorite gentleman, the good sergeant on the board. I won't say his name, Don Bailey, too much, but so we passed his mark, which is an accomplishment in itself, I guess, and just started trying to get the operations going. So, yes, sir.
You mentioned that you had one of the first licenses for transport in the state of Michigan. I was just curious, what is your take on where the market is now versus at the very beginning? Because I was right there with you. I remember you and
Yep.
Kevin coming up and visiting, and we'd have nice long conversations and kind of talk about this whole process and how our experience seems very similar, throughout this whole thing. But I'd like to get your take from a transporter's view, as far as like how have things changed, maybe how things were starting off in, the earlier stages and walk us through into where we are today.
Sure. And I know that a lot of similarities because of all of us got in or transitioned in, I should say, in the beginning stages, and there were challenges. There are inherent challenges with the new industry and a whole new licensing and a statute, and everyone's feeling on that. But then, of course, in the beginning, we were approved, like I said, in July of 18. So it was, I think, there were 1 grow, 1 processor, 1 store, and us that were approved. No testing lab. So hurry, pushing us to get these documents in, get approved, and there's no full supply chain. So now we're looking at what we've done, and we can't get started. So a little bit of frustration there, but what we did is just took that time as an opportunity to go out and meet people that we didn't already know that were in the industry. So Tom being one of them, Kevin as well. I mean, we met Kevin on the driveway in his building one day. So we used that time, and I don't know the exact time. There was a few months, 3-4 months, let's just say, where until they got the full supply chain. Then the state kind of flipped the switch on the industry, and then as we've seen throughout, there's different groups advocating for different things. So long story short, we were ready to go, and then some stays were put in, I believe, to allow the existing caregiver product to go into the stores. So that kind of dipped us out again because we were not allowed to move between caregiver facilities and the commercial market. So again, another, totally understand everything that's going on, but from our standpoint, we're like, damn, now we got to wait again. So use that as another opportunity to just go knock on doors. I mean, Kevin and I traveled throughout the state of Michigan for weeks on end, just doing cold calling, really, which was something that I have never had to do in my career. So, but got used to it real quick. And what I observed and what Kevin agreed on is you knock on somebody's door, like Tom's, for example. Never met the man in my life, knocked on his door, and what did he do? He invited us in and had a nice talk. In any other industry that I've been involved in, I've never experienced anything like that, where there's just an open arms culture, and we embraced that, and really that right there made the fact that we just spent, I'll say the number, what the hell, $66,000 on a license that we couldn't use, or $71,000 with the city of Lansing. and it softened the blow because we started making connections and networking, and right now, we don't do a lot of business for you, Tom, but I'm totally comfortable saying anything and everything to you still. So this is just an example of the type of industry we're all involved in, and it's fantastic in that regard. Keep fast forwarding in the timeline. We had enough licenses. The state thought we had enough product. They turned on the model. We started going like crazy. So in the beginning, it was my partner Kevin and I in a little minivan whipping around the state doing pickups and deliveries, which we planned on doing anyways, to learn how everything went and just meet everybody. And we called it the weed wagon. So we said, we'd always say, where are we going in the weed wagon today? So that kind of stayed normal. Again, a few more hiccups at least from our side, as far as not having, having a couple intervals there where they paused things and went back and forth a little bit. But after all that stuff was cleared up and most people were happy, we started hiring people, and the market was much better. Everybody was learning. I had no false idea that we were going to come into this and say, hey, this is a logistics company and let's do everything like a real logistics company does. It's totally different than that. So, in the beginning, it was really a courier service, an on-demand courier service that we were running. So just to try and answer some of your question, Tom, like that's how the market was when it really started to get going. We were a courier service that delivered one specialized product, and everything was just in time and all this. And of course, everybody's learning, so it was no big deal. Then COVID and the shutdowns hit, and we had some individuals that, I had a Lansing firefighter with asthma. He said, you're not going out there and messing around with that. So Kevin and I got back in the van to substitute, and that was another hell of an experience, just working in that atmosphere. Again, here we are in industry. Everybody's sitting at home. I don't mind saying it. Everyone's sitting at home, living their best life, and all of us here are grinding. So, because we didn't shut down, and I think that matured the industry a lot more too. And again, out and about with everybody. Here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and no one's sour, no one's complaining. We're all just going to work, and everyone's pleasant, and things move on. So now, from then until now, we've just been increasingly growing. The market volume has obviously gone up across the board. We see that in the volume of deliveries, as well as in the volume of each individual delivery, which I think is all going in the right direction. So hopefully that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Michael, one of the things I love about you and Kevin is you when you were telling your story about how you guys got delayed, but you got approved by the board, and then you were delayed because of the temporary operators and whatnot. Instead of just going home and sitting around or going back to your old job, you guys actually hit the ground and started actually networking, and that's, like you said, how you ran into me. I think you were just driving by. I was out in the parking lot. We got to talking. I invited you in. We sat down and we had some conversations. And then you guys stopped back like 2 or 3 more times before you even started doing work, and just building those relationships, which I think is incredibly important. Not enough people understand the culture in marijuana, and the relationships are so important, I think, to me and most of the other people in this industry. And I think that really gave you guys a great jump start. The other thing I'll never ever not mention when I talk about Michael is every year they bring me baklava for Christmas. A big load up of baklava. Stuff's awesome. I look forward to it every year, and so that's another perk of working with these guys. But Ryan mentioned we worked on the Lansing Chamber of Commerce marijuana industry panel. From what I know, that was the first of its kind. Speak to me about the importance of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce, the networking that you get from that, and then along with that, the MICIA. You're also a member of the MICIA. I know that we have over 300 members in the MICIA, and kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, and both of those, the similarities with those, again, are just the benefit of not only just meeting people, but getting to know them. You can walk around a room and go to a random mixer, which I've been to 100 of them, especially in the beginning. You start to know which ones are value added for your specific purposes and which ones are not. So with those two organizations, you get a more the relation. You build more of a relationship, Kevin, like you're saying. It's a beefier. There's more meat on the bone to the conversations instead of just here's my card. Here's my card. Let me sell you some grow lights or let me transport your stuff. It's deeper than that in both those organizations. The Lansing Chamber, we chose to. I'm from Metro Detroit. Like I said, I don't live in Sterling Heights anymore, but I'm still in Metro Detroit. But like when I went to Lansing and saw the culture, spoke to even the local government in Lansing's fantastic. They had it on point right away, and I think a lot of that is probably historical with organizations such as the Lansing Chamber. They build a relationship with the local government for business in general, and those things that were learned or experienced 10 years prior in other industries or whatnot, they've cascaded into us, and they just made it super easy at the I shouldn't say that, they made it pleasant at the city of Lansing. I think the chambers or the local chambers always have influence on that. As far as the MICIA, I mean, when I first spoke to Robin on the phone, and the person that introduced me to her said, she's the godmother. And then after I spoke to her once, I'm like, oh, I can't wait till I'm familiar with her enough to call her that. She was great. I was on board right away. As a matter of fact, the first time I met Ryan was at a dinner after an event at the Capitol, and everyone's phone buzzed at the same time with one of these announcements from the judge, and everyone's reacting at the table, and it was kind of interesting. So with the MICIA, I mean, yeah, it's admittingly over the last year during the pandemic, when I've had to step up big time in the day-to-day tasks of our company just because of the inherent challenges. I've missed the in-person events for that. So those are always great. The networking in the MICA is great. Every time I see Robin or anyone on the board, they're like, well, how can we help you? Is there anything? And we appreciate that. And looking forward to more in-person things so that we can continue to be more involved in that organization. So.
Yeah, both members of both of those as well, of course, and take a lot of pride in the MICA and what it's been able to do in Michigan, and what a business tool. But so I have a question. It's getting that time of year again, and myself, I've been preparing for this Croptober and what the market's going to do and the way I'm placing my products, and I game plan pretty hard. I'm not going to go into all that right now. And it's starting to happen. What is? Are you involved in? Do you transport some of the fresh frozen? And what does Croptober do from a transporter's perspective?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we transport everything for an array of customers, from the smallest grow to the largest one. So yes, we're involved in all that. We feel the tension. We feel the emotions that come with this time of year. So what are we seeing? We're seeing people scrambling and planning, like it sounds like you guys have been doing as well, to try and hedge the effects of this. It affects us. It affected us last year with, it just naturally slows down. Obviously, all the outdoor farms chopping down and bringing that product to market in whatever form that they are. I would hazard a guess mostly to fresh frozen or to a distillate product. It kind of floods things. It's just a natural cycle that I think we all need to get used to. I think historically it's had more effect than it should now. And what I mean by that is, there's going to be a lot of distillate coming into the market. That goes without saying. I don't know how much of that flour that's getting chopped down will actually make it to the shelves as flour, but there shouldn't be such a wave in things as far as the flour market, in my humble opinion. I think the history behind the Croptober is, California chopping their stuff down and blasting it out through the country, and that shouldn't affect us in Michigan in the commercial market. But it definitely does. So doesn't matter if it's real. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what happens, and that's it's got people emotional right now, and everyone's aware of it. So
I think that's partially due to the fact that there are a lot of people coming into the cannabis industry not understanding that this is a natural cycle of things that have it's been happening. In Michigan, we have one growing season, and at the end of the growing season, there's more product available, basic supply and demand. But I think a lot of people came in thinking, oh, they just start rolling, they have all this money invested, and all of a sudden they're seeing these great, huge prices that are ridiculous. They were super ridiculous, not sustainable, not okay for the consumer. They're, especially if you want to try and do anything with the black market. But anyway, that it is a natural occurring cycle, and you should get used to it. But I mean, maybe it was just a little bit of, people get scared. They start, dumping stock or a lot of that if they don't understand something. So yeah, I think maybe we'll see something different this year. We're definitely it's been an interesting growing season, not the same as last year, and that's the thing with Michigan too, is that it's kind of a gambled outdoor as far as what your end product's actually going to end up being.
Yeah, it's I like that analysis from both of you guys, and I really I'm looking at it, and last year I learned what it did to the market when retail sales in July were 175 million, in August 165. September is going to be strong, maybe 160, 165. What you'd be right there, but then when everybody last year the retail sales just dipped so hard because it was the first year everyone could grow 12 of their own, and everybody grew, and it was a great growing year. And everybody was smoking for free for about a month and a half, and that was like what you guys talked about, that crazy panic, like the dip in prices that went down so fast. So with that, I'm rambling on here, but I don't think, I think people are going to be a little more ready for it, but I think there's a lot of people that aren't. So it's a fascinating time, and I'm definitely starting to feel the tension as well. So that was a good analysis, Michael.
Yep, and I think like anything, like Tom said, it's every season's different. So what happened last year could be a little different version this year, and what happens 3 years from now will be a different version then. And at the same time, in parallel, the market's changing, the market's maturing. You have all these activities going on, all these mergers and acquisitions, and all this going on. So it's a big mixed bag dumped into one time period, and we'll see what happens. So. Like most
more people coming into the regulated space to purchase cannabis now. Seems like more and more people are getting comfortable with the idea of visiting a provisioning center, and Michigan has a pretty large population also.
Yep, and that's the goal, right? Is to educate, to end the stigma, and get the segment of Michigan that can become part of this market engaged in the market. So, like Tom's saying, people now are not hesitant to go into a dispensary. That's awesome. And I think those people that go into dispensaries that are kind of the new cannabis user, or somebody that used to use cannabis, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they've got a job, they can't do it, now that life changes or whatever, they're going into the dispensaries, the provisioning centers, they're making purchases there, and that kind of takes them out of I don't think they're in the black market anyway. So to me, those people are all upside, and educating that potential market, I think, is a wise thing to do. And I know you three gentlemen, that's right in your wheelhouse every day. So we appreciate it across the board. I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you, and let's not forget about, we have a large population, but the border towns are off the hook in the UP and in the lower. That's great that the Midwest is so far behind us. So
yeah, right. It's very beneficial for right now, and Wisconsin and Indiana are like, you get maybe one news story every 3 months that some committee in their legislature tried to do something and it just gets stalled, which is not good for the people in those states, but fantastic for our friends running those stores close to those borders. So that's great. That's all great.
Hey, Michael, just to shift gears a little bit, I know you took place in in the stakeholders work group with the state of Michigan, and you guys have been active in trying to have a say or at least know what's going on at all times. Talk to me a little bit about that stakeholders work group and what came with it of it. Did you feel like it was more of a dog and pony show, or did you really think that some good potential change came out of that group?
Yeah, we try to be involved in all those, as many as possible that are feasible. So a couple of the stakeholder groups that I participated in, actually one of them was the first stakeholder meeting for the adult use. Here's the statute. What do you guys think based on your experience in the medical market? And that one I feel was overwhelmingly positive. What came out of that? I mean, they actually, the director, Desmond Mitchell, if he's still there, but he was fantastic. They just sucked in all of our ideas and actually implemented a ton of them. I mean, this is where, the temporary establishment licenses came out of those meetings and all that. So that was all great. Most recently I sat in, and I'm sure this is everybody's favorite, are the financial statement stakeholder meeting. So that one was interesting too. They get it, meaning the MRA. They understand. They know some of the things that are a challenge to us, and so some of the things that came out of there, we're trying to just get everything mainstreamed. It's a pain with the medical and the AU license when I have one entity. You know what I mean? It's servicing both, and we're trying to change some of the auditing rules so that we all only have to do one a year, which would be a huge burden lifted from us all. Not just financial, just time. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm just turning in my adult use annual financial statement, and then my medical notice is coming. It's like a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, with enough licenses, that could be a full-time job for one person, just trying to keep up on that, and then between local inspections and all the other stuff, and it's just streamline things to one set of inspections, one set of standards. That would be kind of nice, because it does get.
Yep, and I wholeheartedly think that the majority of people in this industry are just trying to do the right thing. Just tell me what you want from me. I'm an open book. Here you go. I don't want to do that same activity 5 different times if I don't have to, because it's not value added to us in the industry as the licensees, and it's not value added to the folks at the MRA. They got to be overwhelmed with everything. And like Tom, like you're saying, imagine you have, a grow, a processor, and 5 shops, and all those licenses you didn't get them at the same time. So now you're on a perpetual, like you said, hire somebody just to do that. Man. So, but I think everyone can agree that where those type of things were 3 years ago, we've just made extreme positive steps in all that stuff. So
They've taken most of the things that people have addressed and done a really good job at addressing these issues, even though it seems slow to us, right? But it could be way worse.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. We all have our other business partner, which is the state of Michigan. So, they bring on their benefits and challenges. So, but again, I feel everyone's just trying to do the right thing for the most part. So, maybe not the folks at Metric, but everybody else.
Thank you, Michael. I know we got a little bit of a slow start today, and Nate over at Martin Waymeyer worked his magic. I wanted to give Kevin and Tom and yourself a chance to say goodbye. So, Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Michael, so good to see you again, man, and I always enjoy our conversations. And next time you guys are up in Kalkaska, please come by again and knock on the door. I'd love to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm excited to see the progress you've made over there. I know you're well on your way the last time I was there, so appreciate that, and most definitely will.
Slow and steady.
I like it.
Kevin?
Yeah, unfortunately, because of the different products we've made, and sometimes we have provisioning centers pay for transport and whatnot. We haven't worked together enough, but we were able to use you guys a couple of weeks ago, which got us talking a little bit again. And if I could use you guys on every transport, I'd do it. One of the things that always gets me is when we have a transporter come to try to solicit my business and tell me something like, well, we'll beat their price. And this isn't about price for me. It's about relationships, and you guys do it right. And I appreciate you guys. You guys take care of me whenever I need you. And I really appreciate you having you on the show today.
Yeah, Kevin, again, thanks for facilitating me onto the program. And I appreciate, you recognizing that. I mean, that's the type of company we are. We're a relationship-based company, and that's who we look to partner with, is people that are interested in relationships. In the beginning, if someone told me they're going to someone else for $20, I'd freak out. And now I'm just like, well, if that's that, then we're not going to work together anyways. So, but yeah, I appreciate our relationship and hope to grow it in the future.
Well, Michael, really appreciate you being on the show. It was a great perspective that we haven't had, and that's one thing as a secure transporter, you're really in the know, at the forefront of the market and what's happening. As long as you're running your business like it sounds like you did, and it was a pleasure to have you on, and we're gonna have to have you back on again soon to hear about the update. So with that, we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, next time bring Kevin too. We want to see his mug.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate everything. Ryan, thanks a lot, man. Hope to run into you guys more often.
For sure.